Yeah, there's aspects for both of these cases, both largely related to like economic factors.
I haven't had as much experience with AI in regards to working with clients. Well, I take it back. There's, I guess, sort of two different applications. There's the B2B, which is, the difference is that really it's a matter of scale, a matter of you know, both expense or costs, capability. I think in both cases, whether you're going to business or to consumer, AI does provide an advantage in terms of scaling, in terms of efficiency, optimization. It still doesn't fundamentally address what you're creating and how that's going to impact audiences, how you're going to create value in the idea and the IP itself. Yeah, I don't know. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thanks.
First 是一家结展公司，其实我们主要的内容是to C 的，我们从2025年开始已经有自己的一个交互的一个展览的板块，叫 Antado 这个单元。我们理解在艺术层面，目前来说 AI 的在艺术性上的竞赛好像还没有完全来临，所以我们很多单元是针对于大众的，比如说我们去年有一个项目，是来自于去年9月份参加了林茨的电子艺术节，然后这个项目叫社会游戏，我们大概有12个作品，针对于大众，对。
At first, we have a lot of different exhibitions showing different artwork, and we recently have an interaction kind of work, but most of them are to consumers. So from someone's perspective, AI is still hard to deliver a business level kind of product yet, but to consumers with those short film, with those like short interaction, new innovations we can deliver that to consumers.
比如说我们有一个互动项目叫幽州仙河，这个项目现在在小红书上大家可以看到，那位艺术家叫汤海清，他跟我们的受众是这样互动的，就是说每个人自己都会很快的想起昨天晚上的梦或者是近期的梦，然后他在现场请受众把他的梦描述出来，然后他迅速的就通过 AI 创作的方式，现场有10几个电视机吧，大家可以看到自己的梦是什么样子。重要的是他是艺术家，所以他的每一个作品出来之后，经过调色，经过他的审美，变成了一个 artist short film。
For instance, we have an artist, her name is Haiqing, and she made a project that is have an artist on the stage and using AI to let consumer come describe their dream, and using AI to help those audience come to the stage, make the dream immediately come to a visual piece to come true. But she will use AI to add a lot of art and visual effects to make sure it's aesthetically appealing, while it's immediate creation of the audience dream. And that's actually an art piece of one of the exhibition, and it created immediately while the audience talk about their dream.
That's amazing. So this goes into the evaluating what is an IP. And how do you determine what makes an idea or project valuable IP within your development pipeline?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. It's a number of things. I think first is taste and judgment of having a sense of, first of all, knowing what you want as a creator, connecting to your own point of view, and then making sure that's going to resonate with an audience. Knowing your audience is a big part of that. and having a clarity of what you are creating. The film is not the product. The product is the experience that the audience has. And so having clarity of what you're trying to achieve, what you want to deliver, and then being able to deliver that in a way to build trust with your audience. I think Pixar was great at this. They really created an incredibly strong IP because of the fact they were able to consistently, at least for a long time, bring taste, judgment, clarity of the intent of what the experience is for the audience, building that trust over time. And that trust takes a long time to build, but it's also very quick to lose that trust. And it's about being able to repeat that. An IP is you're trying to extend the life of the thing, and whether it's across sequels or different media, but how are you delivering that in a way that, again, like Pixar was able to do, is they were able to repeat the process of maintaining quality and maintaining trust. And so it's not about just making a thing, it's about making something people to return to and how you can deliver that value, again, even if it's across different forms or formats.
I think Mark's answer is going to be much better than mine, given your experience. 11 Labs is often the technology layer behind a lot of these things, but on the IP front, it is a huge aspect, as I mentioned before, of how we're focusing and creating experiences for our customers to build. One of my favorite projects we did was with the game Fortnite. We worked with Epic Games, who already had IP access to James Earl Jones's voice, for example, right? They wanted to create a Fortnite event in which every player simultaneously could be speaking to Darth Vader in the game, right? There were 11 minutes of Darth Vader's voice available to train a voice model on. And in the 3-week project that it was live, we generated 52 years of audio of Darth Vader speaking, right? And it was one of the most successful events that Epic Games has had, and it has since created a huge influx of people wanting to associate their IP with 11 Labs to create these new unique experiences on our platform, right? Since then, we've worked with the estates of like Matthew McConaughey, for example. They still have control. They still have to give the approval of when customers can use their voice. But this IP does unlock, and like to your point, invoking IP that is already valued, especially in this era of AI, which I think is still a little bit daunting to some people, and it's artificial, can help bridge that gap and also increase the relevance and excitement that potential viewers or customers may have if you're using like a celebrated IP already, with rights, of course.
Actually, I just want to piggyback a little bit off of that, because James Earl Jones in particular is a very unique situation because, rest in peace, he's passed on. And even with him passing on, his voice is still, something that can still grow and, become profitable in a very unique way, without him being here on this earth. And you guys are like architect that's kind of helping making that happen. What does that say to you about potential, in terms of value? Like when it comes to IPs, that seems to me like increase the value of an IP, in this case a voice, where you can give it life beyond, being here.
I think that's a really good question. I honestly think it's up to the estate and the value. How do you want the voice to be leveraged, right? Of course, there are some startups that we're working with that are working on preserving, let's say you have a family member at the later stages of their life, preserving their identity in regards to in like an agent type form where they can have communications, you can upload context behind them and do those types of things. I think as long as it's done respectfully, and again, like I really want to emphasize like adhering to IP rights and laws and not misusing anything like that. But as long as you do it properly, I think that there's a whole slew of cool creative use cases that you can use with these types of voices. And yeah, it's personally one of my favorite projects that I've worked on, and it was cool to see how many kids actually know about 11 Labs now because of that project too. So it was cool.
Great.
OK， 这是我在参加这场论坛当中觉得最有趣的一个问题，也是我特别想说的，对，因为First 就是一个发现作者性电影人的这样一个平台，比如说我们的文牧野导演，他的《我不是药神》，取得了36亿的票房，他现在已经可以，说是一个非常成功的 IP， 然后 它也辅助了其他的新导演的成长。那么我不是药神，作为一个 IP 来讲，它要有一个广泛的与社会情绪共振的这样一个文本，无论是作者还是他的作品。所以我觉得第一点是说，所谓 IP， 它应该有广泛的社会情绪共振，你得有这样的一个 IP 发现的判断力。
I think this is one of the most interesting question I want to answer because at first we support a lot IPs regardless if it's made by AI or not. And for instance, we have a director, his name is Wen Muye, and he made a movie that's I'm Not Medicine God, and it has sold over $360 million in China. And for that movie itself, it's a very good story that has resonated more than a billion people in China, and it creates such resonation among the people. And he thinks this is how you define an IP, regardless using AI or not. A good story is always what's behind.
另外还有2个小例子，一个是近期我们发现的一个作者叫邵一辉，他有2部作品。一个是爱情神话，一个是好东西，他们成功的创造了新的关于上海的都市电影的 IP。那重要是我们在发现他的时候，他已经是一个非常成熟的新媒体的一个作者，他可以在他的新媒体的文章下面去卖电子烟。那我们觉得他是一个冉冉升起的一个 IP 的苗子。
We also have found 2 other new IPs these days that they are independent filmmaker, but they also create a story that resonates a lot of people from Shanghai regarding smoke. And that's also about good stories, always about the resonation and the common point.
还有一个生动的例子，我们在新媒体就互联网上发现有3个年轻人，他们的账号叫闪电制片厂，但我们知道它肯定不是一个大的 studio，但是他们的话题，他们每天在那做这种 talk， 有成千上万的这种流量，而且他们非常赚钱。但是他们有一个电影的梦想，First 就接纳了他们，他们已经开始进入他们自己的第3部independent film 的制作。然后关键是其中一个是导演，另外2个就是他的那个话题的那个演说者，就是他的节目里的2个嘉宾，成为他新电影的演员。他们现在在中国也非常成功，对。
Another example would be there's like someone post on new social media like TikTok about their story that they made, even in a short format content, but they have great stories that tell about 3 people how they become successful when they make independent film by themselves. And so I think the point is it's always that you have a good story that resonates people, and then you can spread it around in your own way. While using AI, you can make it simpler.
Thank you very much. So we're now going to the last half of this, which is the very entertaining part of financing, and investors. So with that shift, the traditional film financing has long been like gatekept. How does treating a film or IP project like a tech startup in the case of the AI side fundamentally change the way creators should think about raising capital today? And do you recommend this approach?
I think the front end is dramatically changing of how people are making films, but from what I understand, still the back end of the legacy players in the space still exists, and how you're going to share your model. So again, I don't want to keep harping on IP and going about your project properly, but making sure that you're not breaking any, infringing on any IP is important when you go that way. On the investing side, I would say it's, from my experience there, a unique idea is not as unique as a great team. So when you go and you're building a team of people, whether they have a good network, whether they have have a lot of experience in the space, that is what I think investors look for when they're founding new projects like this as well, right? Yeah, that's a short answer.
I mean, I'm not an investor, so, but, investment is, focused on making a return, obviously, and mitigating risk. I think a lot of what we're seeing AI bringing value into the entertainment space, again, is around production. It's around maybe moderating costs, lowering risk in that regard. Again, it's about optimization, but the tech doesn't fundamentally change the value of what you're creating. And so I think that it's important to have a mindset towards, a startup is about, creating a startup is about finding a problem you're trying to solve, knowing your audience, finding your market fit, and then raising the capital to achieve that. But there's a lot of due diligence and mitigation that goes into that. Film storytelling is it's such a hit-driven industry. You don't know what's going to take off. I think, though, there are ways to bridge that gap, to do due diligence, especially as an investor, into what's the value in the story that's being told. What's the resonance? Who's it going to resonate with? Who's the audience? How relevant is it? Again, there's no guarantee to anything, but I think that because the scarcity around production is lowering, and it's enabling more people to come to the market to create content. There's going to be a flip side kind of problem space now where there's more content, it's more saturated, distribution and discovery is even harder. So how do you break out of the noise? How do you get the signal from the noise? And this comes down to the content, to what you're saying, who you're saying it to, and how are you validating as much as possible that this is going to connect with your audiences, instead of just making something being kind of like the auteur and then throwing it out and hoping it captures the market share. So I think there's definitely more attention that should be brought to the fundamental creative side of things.
I would also add, 11 Labs also partners with a lot of video creating models, and every single week there's a brand new model that's coming out from whether it's Kling or Sora before they just shut it down, Google's Veo type solutions, and I'm amazed. There's these incremental improvements every single time, whether it's even cost effectiveness, right? These models are getting more lightweight and they're getting better quality. Now they're allowing you to keep consistent characters through multiple different scenes, which was impossible before as well. So I think staying up to date and on par with this super quickly changing industry is also relatively important. And then I know sound is also a huge aspect. As George Lucas said, audio is 50% of the movie-going experience. So focusing on how you can incorporate like full soundscapes into these films would also be important. I think bringing the whole package to an investor, distribution, quality, consistency, and obviously being as innovative as possible is relevant here as well.
Thank you.
其实我是把 AI 作为电影创作的辅助工具与真人电影来讨论的，因为此前我们有自己的电影创投市场，我们看到很多年轻的作者来提供他的剧本，往往呢他们会把其他的一些经典电影剪辑成一个 trainer。现在我们可以用 AI 的工具做风格上的模拟，来降低我们电影投资的这个风险吧，而且我们已经这样在做了，对，就是。
In my opinion, I think AI is a great tool to help making films. And in the way how filmmakers right now, they can use AI as a tool to help them do pilot and demo films to give people an idea of how this film is, to raise capitals. And they can also use AI to mock a lot of different CG and After Effects that people cannot do the mock before.
那我想，无论是 AI 电影还是真人电影，大家不必要恐慌的是说， 我们要有发现社会问题的能力。至于表现形式，它是 AI 的还是真人电影，不重要。所以我的投资的原则是，比如说我的《爆裂无声》，辛玉坤导演的，包括我的那个44个色柿子，是我们投的蔡振杰导演的，以及我们刚刚完成制作的张大磊导演的《我们为何要做梦》。这些电影它有个共同的特征，它有极强的社会批判的穿透力，对。
As a film investor myself, I am agnostic whether this film is made out of AI or not, but the major thing is the story still shows and reflects some social problem and gives comments a resonation point about the story. So even if the film is made out of AI, as a film investor, I will still take a look at it, as I think AI is a tool for filmmaker.
Thank you. And so, and you guys kind of answered this. This is going to kind of bleed over into this next question, which is when you're putting together a project, either from the creative side or from the investor side, what are the key elements from your experience that investors are really looking for today that make an AI-driven project investable? And how is that different from how traditional film projects or projects as a whole have typically been evaluated? So whether that's metrics or just key signals, what would that be?
Yeah, I can hit that just briefly from the creative standpoint, not so much the business standpoint. To me, the fundamental goal and challenge is the same. You're trying to tell a story that resonates with people, that finds enough of a market fit that you can sustain that. Hence the IP part. What the values that you're creating, I think I touched on some of those. Again, from the IP standpoint, from the creative standpoint, you want to have, I think, clarity around what you're promising the audience, that making sure that that's going to pay off, that audience value is paid. Again, being able to prove that you can repeat the process. It's not just a one-off. An IP is not one thing, right? It's a sustained value. But it's also defined by creative boundaries, what people expect within that. But it also can't be so rigid. You have to have the ability to expand the logic of the world. I think we see a lot of IP devaluation that occurs when the original value proposition of a film that maybe creates the IP in the first place, it gets people excited about that world. And then in subsequent sequels, we'll often see kind of the story quality come down, the value proposition comes down because things are being indexed that don't add value back to the IP. As a matter of fact, there's sort of a difference between creating value, and this is something that Pixar really did really well, is they really maximize the value that goes into the films from trailer to the short before the movie to the end credits to the DVD bonus material, always adding value. On the business side, though, it's obviously creativity and commerce are the two forces at work, and they're often fighting each other. But that there's the value creation versus the value extraction. And IPs are often about value extraction. How do we keep making money off of this as long as possible? And it's not, I think, as much thought goes back to what's the audience being given, or what the audience is given is often not really what they value. More special effects, more bad guys, more epic isn't adding a lot of cultural value. It's just one knob you can turn. So I think it's about having a mindfulness for all the knobs you're turning in terms of how you're creating audience value. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I think it's going to be a similar answer to what I said last time, but yes, creating value. I think regarding your team as a product of what the investors are looking for, of consistency, and again, in this world, we're working with a lot of creative agencies that instead of just invoking AI are building a whole new AI arm of these creative agencies for advertisements. There's a phrase called AI factory in which you have every single component that you would need to build some sort of AI solution or AI tool. But again, I do still think that a lot of the distribution means are still standard as to how to make your how to purvey and evangelize your video or your project, right? So I think having the experience in the network to leverage and distribute your film, as well as like the keenness to have this really low cost way to create these films, but still obviously creating a memorable experience is what I imagine they would look for.
其实我想呢，无论是 AI 制作出来的电影，还是通过传统的手工方式制作出来的电影，当然我现在还没有制作过纯 AI 的电影，但是我想最重要的还是要关注那个作品诞生之前的那个艺术的领导者吧。过去来讲，他可能是个导演，那现在可能他也是一个学生，他可能学人类学的或者学哲学的都不重要，重要的是说这个艺术的领导者他是否有同情心，是否有洞察社会问题的能力，因为只有这样，他创造的作品才可以和观众心灵照应吧。
I haven't invested in any AI film yet myself or involved in any AI actual films yet, but in my opinion, by looking at a lot of AI short films, I think it's more about previously there are a famous director that's making a film happen, but right now a student who can study sociology or philosophy can also make a film happen. And the most important thing here is about the audience and whether the director knows the audience and whether the director has a empathetic about the audience problem that can actually like show the social problem through a visual piece using AI and make that happen into a film format and storytelling format.
Thank you.
Can I actually add something to that question? I think kind of the difference between, again, traditional filmmaking and AI filmmaking, AI is definitely changing a lot of factors, a lot of the risks or a lot of the scarcity that historically with traditional studios, they're the gatekeepers, right? So there's scarcity in terms of, getting your film greenlit, and then all the things you need to do to mitigate the risk. But AI, again, it's increasing a lot of the production quality of this and the production factors. But it doesn't, it's allowing us to scale quickly, churn out product quickly, iterate quickly, and that's going to create, I think, a flood of content, because now that we are increasingly democratized, quote unquote, or there's different platforms, alternative formats, short form, verticals, all these new emergent formats, the market is just getting more and more flooded with noise. And so how the challenge, I think, for funding, especially in the AI space, is how do you rise above that? And this, again, comes back to the value that you're putting in the product and building trust. And it's an interesting race because, again, the more supply that AI enables, the more competitive the space inherently becomes, and the more critical it is to differentiate, to have things that resonate where where a lot of the work, maybe mass-produced AI work, maybe doesn't have the same. Not everything is going to latch, right? And it's just, and again, AI by itself is. I mean, you might have a fluke where you can have kind of a surprise hit, but often I think that has to be shaped by an intentionality.